What's up guys, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be all about lashes. Today I kind of wanted to touch on something else, like another topic about lashes. We've been hearing so much stuff about COVID. Let's just like kind of stray away from that right now and talk about becoming a lash tech and things that you should know starting out. Today I'm going to talk about lashes to use when you're a beginner or like just starting or trying to figure it out or whatever the case is. The thing is like this is like the easiest way to go about it if you're just starting out. That's the way I'm gonna like phrase it. Okay, so I'm going to talk about classics as well as volumes, but let's start with classics. There are pros and cons to using thick lashes and thin lashes. I'm not going to talk too much about the cons, but I kind of want to focus more on the pros of each one. Basically what I think they are and like my personal preference and what I think you can get out of using each one. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is thin lashes. Now I think thin lashes are kind of the way to go when it comes to starting out as a lash tech and really just trying to learn the skill and focus more so on your isolation and things like that. So I recommend thin lashes when you're starting out only because I feel like it's easier to work with when you start, and that way you're not actually damaging your client's lashes, because the whole thing is you do have to kind of gauge what a natural healthy lash looks like and then a natural weak lash. And the thing is, with you have thick lashes, sometimes you may not understand because you're not technically getting like a full flow of clients and you can't see multiple different lashes with multiple different clients with multiple different lashes, so you can't really compare what's what. So I would stick to thin lashes because sometimes you may have a really thick healthy lash and it could probably take like a 0.25, but you don't know yet because you haven't seen that thick lash. You've only really seen thin lashes, or you've seen mediocre lashes. So the safest way to start with that is just make sure you're using thinner lashes, such as like a 0.10 or even like a 0.15. I would say maybe a 0.15. Just so you can actually put lashes on every lash and not have to worry about, oh my gosh, is this lash too heavy for this client's natural lash. So that's my take on that. Okay, so my second point would be, this will really help build your isolation skills because it's easier to see if two natural lashes are stuck onto a thin lash versus having a thick lash that you're thick extension, sorry, I should say, applying to a natural lash. Sometimes those will get stuck in the glue and you can't even see it because it's blended into the extension. When you have a thin lash, sometimes you'll still be able to see if there's two natural lashes attached to that extension, and then you can separate them before they get completely stuck. So I think it's just a good way of isolating, and you're better off working with the thin lashes just so that way you can kind of see where you're maybe making a mistake or maybe where you think two lashes may be touching an extension. My next tip is kind of like a different kind of lash, but flat lashes. So I'm not going to get into the whole thing about what flat lashes are. I will do a separate video on what flat lashes are and why we use them, but I do recommend using flat lashes when you're starting out only because the flat lash will adhere better to the natural lash, allowing you to kind of focus more so on other things versus is the lash bouncing off the natural lash or anything like that. So that way you can really focus on like isolating, you can focus on your placement, and then that way you're able to kind of redirect your thought process so you're not just completely like, oh my god, is it sticking, is it sticking, is it sticking? Because then sometimes you're focusing so much on the fact that is the lash sticking to the natural lash, and then you don't even know if you place it left, right, center, you just don't know, you just know it's on there. So I do recommend flat lashes for that purpose. Okay, so now for thick lashes. So the thing about thick lashes is it does have pros as well. So you will get a more dramatic result if you use a thick lash because you'll definitely be able to see that better than if you're using a thin lash, because the thing is when you start, you don't necessarily put as many lashes on in one set as you would if you were lashing for like a year or 2 years, whatever the case is. So it's definitely a little bit more dramatic, and it's a little more satisfying to see that lashes are actually on the eye when they open their eyes. The thing about thick lashes too is that you're actually able to see if you have any placement issues. So when that person opens their eyes, you'll see if that lash is pointing left or right, if it's not on right. Sometimes you might not be able to see it with the thin lash because they may blend in with the natural lash a little more, but with the thick lash you'll definitely be able to tell wherever it is. The other thing about thick lashes is you will probably be able to pick it up easier than you would for a thinner lash. It'll be easier for you to grab it with your tweezers and place it versus having a thin lash. Sometimes it might not be as easy to pick up when you're just starting. It may take some practice, which is fine, because like that, I remember when I got trained, that was like a thing, like picking up lashes, that was super important. So definitely keep going at that, picking up, so you know that it's not even something you're thinking about, you're just going and picking it up, and you're really focusing on the isolation and placement of that lash. Okay, so like I said before, the biggest thing I think would be just like the placement, and you can definitely see your mistakes better with the thicker lashes, so you can really point out where you went wrong, if you want to change something, if you feel like the length isn't good, if you don't like the curl. You'll definitely be able to pick that out better when you're using a thick lash than versus a thin lash. So I think it just depends really on where you are at skill level. I would say if you're starting, I would go with the thin lashes, and then once you kind of get your isolation a little bit more down packed and your placement, maybe start working with the thicker lashes, because then you can work on other things. That's just my personal opinion. I think that would really help new lash techs starting out. I know for me, when I started lashing, I was lashing with super thick lashes, and I found I didn't understand that they were getting stuck to each other, and I had no idea because no one told me. So my recommendation would be to start with thinner lashes and then work your way to thicker lashes. Okay, so for volumes now, volumes are a little bit more in the opposite direction. I would say start with thicker volumes and then work your way down to thinner volumes, because the thinner the volume lash is, the more fans you can make, the bigger your fans can be, and you really want to make sure you're focusing on creating the right fan, and that right fan stems from the base, literally. So your base has to be as thin as possible, so that way when you're working with a 0.07 or even like a 0.10, some people use 0.10s maybe to do like 2Ds, and then also that depends on how healthy your natural lash is, but I would say it's safe to go with 0.07s. You want to take your 0.07s and start with 2Ds, so that way you can focus on really making sure your base is super thin, and then you're placing the lash on the natural lash in the center. So that way you don't have to worry about your lashes falling to the side. Maybe you're placing the left side of the fan more on the natural lash than the right. You want to make sure that your natural lash is right in the center of your 2D fan. That way when you have your 2D fan, you can actually work on how much glue you want to put on there. That goes back to the base being super thin. You want to make sure you're putting enough glue, but not too much glue that your base is getting thicker. When you have a fan such as like a 2D, your base should be super thin. It's really when you're working your way up, and that goes with when you start expanding to 3D, 4D, 5D, you want to make sure your base is super thin. So start with your 2D, work on that base, and then you can add a lash as you go. And then the more lashes you add, the thinner your lashes get. So if you're at like a 3D or a 4D, you can start moving to a 0.05, and then once you get to like a 6 or 7D, you can start working with a 0.03. Okay, so that was my super quick video on lashes to use when you're a beginner or when you're starting out lashing. This was like a super fast video I just kind of wanted to put out there, because I know a lot of I've been in like some Facebook groups and stuff like that, and a lot of people ask these questions, and I don't really see them put out anywhere or talked about. So I know these are things sometimes you're supposed to learn in your training, but we don't always get to learn the things we want to learn in our training. So hopefully this helps. If you guys like these videos, definitely comment below. Let me know if you have any questions, and I will answer them if I know the answers. If not, I will find them for you. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I'll be back with something new next time. Bye!